Hello children, I hope you are feeling happy and strong. I welcome you all to our special English hour. You all know we learn new things and have fun while doing these things. Today is also going to be a similar day. Are you all ready? Let's get started. Now let's learn some new words. You will see these words in the story when we read it. So I request you to please make a note of these words in your notebooks. Encounter. 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 He had a brief encounter with the police officer. Intrude. 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 He did not want to intrude her privacy. Intimacy. 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 The intimacy between the two friends was magical. Resemble. 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 Young often resemble the adults. Forbid. 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 There are many ancient laws that forbid it. So children, today we learned 5 new words. Let's revise them. Encounter, intrude, intimacy, resemble and forbid. I hope you remember these words and I hope that you have made a note of these words in your notebooks. Children, now let's read a story from your textbook. Please open page number 70 of your textbook. The name of the story is The Two Gentlemen from Verona. I will be reading this story and I request you to point at the words as I read them. And if you don't have a textbook, listen to me carefully. A.J. Cronin has very well carved the idea of selfless help and explained the importance of dedication towards relationships in the story The Two Gentlemen of Verona. The story revolves around the two boys named Nicola and Jacopo, who do numerous things to earn money only to pay for their sister's treatment, who suffers from tuberculosis of the spine. This story is about two brothers. Their names are Nicola and Jacopo. These two brothers are very hardworking and they do all this hard work only for their sister. Their sister is suffering from tuberculosis of spine, and to cure her, they need money. This story talks about how one can be selfless in relationships. Do you know what selfless means? Selfless is opposite of selfish. Selfish is someone who only thinks about themselves, whereas selfless is someone who also thinks about everybody else. So this story talks about selfless relationships. The story begins with the narrator driving down the foothills of the Alps. Here is when he first encounters the two brothers selling wild strawberries. Even after the driver forbids the narrator to buy the wild fruits, he buys the biggest basket and drives towards the town. This scene emphasizes on the first step of growing intimacy between the narrator and the two boys. This story begins when the narrator meets the two brothers. Who is the narrator in this story? It's the one who has written this story. So he is a third person. So in this story, the narrator meets the two brothers at the foothills of Alps. What are Alps, you ask? Alps are mountain range. So the narrator meets the two brothers at the foothills of Alps mountain range. These brothers are selling wild strawberries. Why are these strawberries called wild? Because they grow in the wild. So these two brothers are selling wild strawberries. The narrator wants to buy them and his driver warns him to not buy these strawberries because they are grown in the wild. But the narrator nonetheless buys the strawberries, and this is how the narrator and the two brothers encounter each other. Have you heard this word somewhere before? The word encounter? Yes, this was one of the new words that we learned today. Can you tell me, what does the word encounter mean? Encounter means meeting someone unexpectedly. So here the narrator meets these two brothers unexpectedly. Next day, the boys are found shining shoes in the public square. This amazes the narrator. This is when they reveal the fact that they do numerous kinds of things to earn money. Here, the narrator is shown to develop a soft corner for them in his heart. He finds them to be innocent, serious, pleasant, and earnest. The next day, the narrator again comes across both the brothers, but this time they are shining shoes. This bewilders the narrator. He is confused, and that's when he realizes that both these brothers are doing different kinds of jobs so that they can earn money. When the narrator hears their story, he is very moved. He realizes that both these brothers are pleasant, hardworking, and very dedicated. The boys are very useful to the narrator. They are very willing to satisfy all that the narrator requires. They are also found selling newspapers by the narrator one stormy night. One day, when the narrator asks if he can help them in any way, they say they will be very grateful if they get a lift to the nearby village, Polita. Although it doesn't come in the narrator's way, he takes them there. The boys get down in a building and ask the narrator to wait in a nearby cafe until they return within an hour. Both these boys were very helpful. The narrator required their help, and both the brothers were always willing to lend their help. Eagerness leads the narrator to follow the boys up to a place which is actually a hospital. On peeping through a room led by a nurse, he realizes that boys are talking to a girl who resembles them. He does not feel like intruding and thus asks the nurse the details about the boys. This is when the nurse tells him the heart-rending story about their father being killed in a war and their home being destroyed in the war and their sister suffering from tuberculosis. Both the brothers are going to return in 1 hour and they have asked the narrator to wait in a cafe. But the narrator is very curious. He wants to know where both the boys are going on this stormy night. So he follows them. He reaches a spot and he realizes that the building is actually a hospital. He walks a little more and he comes across a nurse. He is standing close to a door and he sees that inside the door are both the boys and they are talking to a girl. The girl resembles both the boys. Have you heard the word resembles? Yes, this was one of the new words that we learned today. Can you guess what the word resembles means? The word resembles means someone who looks similar. So this girl looked similar to both the boys. Now the narrator was even more curious. He wanted to know who this girl was. There was a nurse standing nearby and he asks her about both the boys. The nurse tells the narrator everything about the boys, how their father died in a war and how their house was destroyed. The nurse also tells the narrator about the girl. The girl is actually their sister and she is suffering from tuberculosis of the spine. The brothers live in a shelter and literally starve only so that they can pay for their sister's treatment. So, keeping a secret and helping their sister, they have shown that war has not shaken their spirit. They are noble and gentle and great human beings in their own special yet subtle way. This story distinctly talks about how true the amplification says. Where there is a will, there's a way. The narrator further realizes that both the boys are living in a shelter. Sometimes both the brothers starve themselves so that they can pay for the treatment of their sister. Do you know what starving means? Starving means not eating food. So both the brothers sometimes don't eat food so that they can save some money and pay for the treatment of their sister. They are both very hardworking and very honest. This shows that the war had not broken their spirit. Do you know what does the term not broken their spirit mean? It means that they are still very positive and they are true fighters. From this story, we learn that where there is a will, there is a way, which means that if you want to do something, even if the situation seems impossible or very difficult, but if you want to overcome it, you will always overcome it. Now, it's time for you to sit back and relax while I tell you a wonderful story. This story is also about someone who is very hardworking and passionate. Here, she wants to become a dancer. Let's find out how she does that. Once upon a time, in a faraway place, two parents had a baby. This baby was a baby girl. Her name was Phyllis, and she was going to be a ballet dancer. Do you know what ballet is? Ballet is a form of dance where you use your toes to dance all the time. It is a very graceful form of dance. Her parents were yet to find out what an amazing dancer Phyllis was going to be. When Phyllis was in school, she even managed to impress her teachers. She used to practice before the school and she used to practice after the school. There was nothing more than dance that Phyllis liked. When she was just 15 years old, she enrolled herself in the Royal School of Ballet. This school was in London and she was nearly 15 years old. And now the world was going to see what a graceful dancer she was. When Phyllis used to dance, she moved like a swan, ever so graceful. Everyone clapped and threw their caps in respect. She was magnificent on the dance floor. She actually looked like a swan was moving on the dance floor. Phyllis did not limit her performance to just London. She travelled to the United States, to Canada, to France, to Mexico, everywhere. She, and along with her friends from London School of Ballet, did not want to limit themselves. They travelled all across the world and spread the magic of this beautiful dance form. Phyllis had achieved a lot, but now She was missing her home. She wanted to go back to her parents, and one day she decided to do that. She moved back to South Africa, which was her original home. I love dancing, but I am not a trained dancer. Phyllis was a trained dancer, and it takes a lot of efforts to be a trained dancer. One has to work very hard and be dedicated towards the art. When you see anyone perform on stage, we need to realize that there are so many hours of hard work and dedication that one puts when they perform on the stage. Because of her hard work and dedication, Phyllis was always able to capture her audience. She performed with the best of the performers that were out there, and she mesmerized the audience with each of her performance. When we work hard, we should never think about rewards, because we will eventually get rewards and recognition. And this is exactly what happened with Phyllis. She was given the greatest title there ever was, and that will always be remembered, and that title will always belong to her. A few years down the line, Phyllis met Philid Boyd. He was also a renowned dancer. A few years later, they got married and they both started performing together. Their performances were always astounding. They did not have children, but they opened a school of dance together, and they admitted every child in their school. Phyllis, with her dedication and hard work, managed to create a name for herself. But her dedication and hard work got her success, and her success managed to inspire many dancers all around the world, and that is her true legacy. Children, I hope you enjoyed this story, and I hope that Phyllis's story motivated you in some way or the other. Children, I hope you had fun in today's session, and I will see you in our next session. Until then, take care and stay safe. Bye.